Hi guys, Steven Central here and welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be ranking all of the 13 Doctor Zero. So, first story, Woman Fell to Earth, all the way to the most recent one she's been in. Thought this should be fun to have a look at her era before, obviously, the Series 13 comes out and there's specials after that. So yeah, let's get started. First we have Woman Fell to Earth. The first story, yeah, it's pretty good. I argue probably one of the weaker post-regeneration stories, but for what it is, I think it's a decent story. Tim Shaw is a really unusual villain, and I'm not really a fan of him, but it's not too bad. It's okay for what it is. Next we have Ghost Monument. Now Ghost Monument, it's going in okay as well. I don't think the story is particularly bad. I just don't think it's particularly good. So I just think okay is the best place for it. I put a bit below Woman to Fall to Earth just because it's just in the middle. Next we've got Rosa, which I think is a pretty good story. Now I must admit I don't remember the villain's name in this. He's really forgettable. He just kind of appears, seems to not want. He's like a time traveler like the Doctor. And he seems doesn't want something to happen, but they've really put him on the back burner to get Rosa's story out there for this episode, and I think it works fine. And then we have Arachnids in the UK, and yeah, it's not good. They went for a definite, a very kind of first season Chris Eccleston story approach, where you've got your first episode with the companions meeting the Doctor. You got your second episode where they go to some sort of different planet, or obviously the space station. Then you've got your past episode, and then they come back to Earth, and the Arachnids in the UK, it's really bad. They just the spiders look stupid, running around the hotel and stuff like that. And it was supposed to be creepy. I just don't think they've executed the creepiness of it at all. And honestly, you know, the Jack character, he was a lot better in Revolution of the Daleks, which I'll get onto. But in this, he's just a complete Trump stereotype, and it's just not great. Then we've got the Tsungra conundrum. It's okay. I think the Pating's a bit of an unusual villain. It's not bad. It's not like Rose's one where it's on the back burner a little bit, but he's just an unusual villain. But he's not a bad villain, and I do like the setting of it. I think the setting works well. I think the story all around is a decent story, but it's just overall just like one of those ones where I wouldn't be running back to watch it. Next, we have Demons of the Punjab. Now, I think Demons of the Punjab is a fairly good story, actually. I know a lot of people like the Demons of the Punjab, and I just think it's a really good watch. It's a nice kind of historical, with a bit of nice pseudo historical anyway, with the whole kind of twist being that the villains aren't really villains, and yeah, I think it's just a really good, enjoyable watch for her first series. And then we have, I'd argue, the best first series, which is Kablam. It's a really good story. It's basically just a political commentary on basically Amazon and, you know, big companies like that, who deliver products. And yeah, it's a fun watch. I thought the exploding bubble wrap was an interesting kind of interesting, not villain, but like device, and it works all right, and it's a good watch. Then we have the Witchfinders, which is pretty good. Yeah, it's not awful, but it's not amazing. I think the Alan Cummings James I was great. I really did enjoy the kind of whole witch kind of aspect of it, and I really quite liked the villain. I thought the villain was fairly interesting, and it's one of those ones where I think it's forgettable, but it's a good watch. But then you've got It Takes You Away, another bad episode. I don't understand this one. It's just a bit dumb. It's a dumb story. I think I can have a story which is a bit silly and a bit hammed up. I mean, you've got stories like From the Classroom with Hunt and Naimon, you know, stuff that's the Doctor's not too serious, but Jodie Whittaker makes her Doctor seem so serious in the story, and everything around her seems so ridiculous, and I just don't think it works. I think, although it's not a great story, I think if you stuck maybe Matt Smith's Doctor in there, even Troughton's Doctor, Tom Baker's Doctor as well, they'd all have made this more an enjoyable story because of how silly the kind of villain is. But I just don't think Jodie Whittaker gelled with this kind of story. Then we have the Battle of Ranskoor of Kolos. As a story itself, it is the worst new series story, and possibly the worst story of any Doctor Who ever. I said Tim Shaw's an okay villain, but in this he's so bad. The kind of people that he was using to and controlling, lazy. The people that came back from Ghost Monument, boring. It was just all around an awful story, and I could not sit through rewatching that again. Then we have Resolution, and anything could be better than the Battle of Ranskoor of Kolo. If we're doing a comparison, bang up and greatest, but yeah, it's okay. I don't want to put it any higher than okay because it does get outshined by the Revolution of the Daleks, which I never understood why they made them so similar. But for what it is, it's still quite a good story. I do like the design of the Dalek, though it's not the best design they've ever had. But yeah, it's still a good design. Anyway, moving on, we've got Spyfall. Spyfall Part 1 is pretty good. It's a bit slow, but Spyfall Part 2, really good. The reveal of the Master in Spyfall Part 1 is pretty good. Then Spyfall Part 2 is amazing. I really actually liked it, and it was weird because I liked the Doctor because she wasn't with her usual companions. She'd kind of got pseudo companions for this one singular story, and it really worked in kind of leaving Graham, Ryan, and Yaz by themselves, which is why, as I'll say when we get to Revolution of the Daleks, I kind of wish the Doctor had done some more stuff without those three companions, and then maybe come back to them within Revolution. So maybe even, we kind of flick between the two perspectives, but the Doctor goes off and does one thing, and then Ryan, Graham, Yaz, and maybe even Captain Jack kind of do something else, and then they need to meet up, or partway through the story, Captain Jack goes off and finds the Doctor. Anyway, I think Spyfall Part 2 is just a good watch. And then moving on to Orphan 55. Yeah, it's not as bad as Ranskoor of Kolos, but it's not a great watch. Orphan 55 is a dull story. It's a bit milestone, possibly unintentionally. It's a bit of a rip-off of the Mysterious Planet from the Colin Baker, from the Trial of the Time Lord Colin Baker, because it's the same story, just portrayed slightly differently, where in the future something happened to planet Earth and it changed, its name got changed, and now there's different settlers, or there's people who live on the planet in fear of some sort of, evil, and there's some sort of evil, like, villain, robot or monster, and it's all a political commentary. But I think what makes this one awful is it's a political commentary on global warming, but it's so in your face. It's not a subtle political commentary like Robert Holmes was so good at doing, or someone even Russell T Davies was pretty good at doing. It's just the monologue at the end is just so in your face. It makes it so in your face. It's just not good. Then we got Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. Yeah, I think this one's pretty good. It's not amazing by any standards, but it's a good watch. I do quite like it, and it enlightened me to Nikola Tesla's kind of story a bit more, and yeah, it was pretty cool. Also, I really liked the Skiff for Queen, because she also plays Rani within Sarah Jane Adventures, and it was nice to see her return and do some more for Doctor Who, because I know she's appeared in a bit of Big Finish. So it was nice. Next, we have The Fugitive of the Judoon. A solid story, not so solid twist. Well, I say not so solid twist, but it's an interesting one for me. I think first watch The Fugitive of the Judoon. Great story, really cool, like, reintroduction with the Time Lords chasing down this Time Lord fugitive, the Jaduna there, all really cool. The plot twist of her being the Doctor, whilst I was disappointed, I wanted it to be the Rani or Romana. You can't blame them because, Moffat had done that before with the War Doctor. But with on rewatch, I think while the story's still as solid, the twist is now a lot worse because knowing what's going to be for the War Doctor, they had the fact they revealed the War Doctor, and then in the Day of the Doctor, they made it very clear the War Doctor was for the period, a big gap within the Doctor Who lore, where we just assume McGann's Doctor, the Eighth Doctor, fought in the Time War, but it's just changed that. But in this, the fact that she existed created a whole the whole time as children, and so now Hartnell's not the first Doctor, most likely, and it's just it's not a nice one. Then we've got Praxeus. Praxeus is it's okay. It's probably just edging top of the bad. It's okay. It's just a mere watch. I think it was a very ill-timed story with some sort of illness that is killing humans. And, not long later, there was the COVID pandemic, so it's a very ill-timed story, but it wasn't awful. It was okay. I think that's what I'm saying for a lot of these, but I think that's the thing with Jodie Whittaker series, probably just meh. I have to say a lot of them are okay because that's what they are. You've got the really bad ones, and then you've just got the stuff that's just meh. They're not bad, they're just not great. And then we've got Can You Hear Me? Yeah, this one again is just okay. The guy with the fingers coming off was weird. Like, I was not expecting that. I thought at first watching it, I think when I first watched this, when it first was aired, I'd recently finished watching Enlightenment, which has both the White and Black Guardian face off, and I was dead hopeful that it was the White and Guardian and the Black Guardian returning to Doctor Who, and it would have made sense even if they changed their appearance. They made it quite clear within the Key to Time arc that the Guardians can change their appearance, and also it would have made sense for the Black Guardian to have helped the White Guardian in the sense that whilst there is light, there needs to be dark, and vice versa. So there's no, the Black Guardian could not exist without the White Guardian. So if the White Guardian got kicked out, got stopped, then the Black Guardian would not be able to exist in a sense, which they've set up very clearly in the White Guardian trilogy, the Black Guardian trilogy, and the Key to Time. So I was kind of hopeful, but it ended up being some random gods that, whilst were an interesting concept, and I can't blame Chibnall for not bringing them back, because it's not like he has an obligation to bring them back. The same with the Rani and Romana. He didn't have that obligation to bring them back. I just think, as a fan, there would have been so much more he could have done with them. Especially if they appeared in this and then he became the main threat of the story. I know with Fugitive of the Judoon, and then that it might be weird. But if the Fugitive of the Judoon was not created and it was a different filler story, Can You Hear Me brought these characters in, I think it would have been a lot more interesting. And I just think at the end, the whole resolution of it was just not great. Now, in my opinion, the best story of her era, The Haunting of Villa Diodati, it's a very Base Under Siege kind of story, but very horror. It's very night terrors crossed with Seeds of Death, where you've got some sort of weird kind of ghost, which obviously becomes the lone Cyberman appearing. You've also got the whole Cyberium being hidden in the Villa of Diodati, but because one of the people who's gone missing has, got the Cyberium and he's hiding, he's kind of making these disturbances happen in the house, and it makes it very tense and very scary. And yeah, it's really good. It's a quite creepy one, very atmospheric. The build up to the Lone Cyberman was pretty good, especially, in a couple episodes prior in the future of the Judoon, which is a very packed story. Jack mentions to not give the Lone Cyberman what he wants, which the Doctor ultimately does. And I think, yeah, it's a very good watch, enjoyable. Next, we have Ascension of the Cybermen. Yeah, it's a decent part one. I think it's okay. I stick it at the top of okay. Yeah, it's an okay one. I like this, the first Cyberman story she's gone up against, and I think for a proper Cyberman story, it was quite good. The new designs that we saw at the end of it were quite cool. It was a very cross between the 80s Earthshock kind of Cybermen and the more sleek, newer design, the more newer Nightmare and Silver looking designs. Also, maybe a little bit of Invasions Cybermen sprinkled in there. I think it's very cool when they do that. I did like them. I hope that becomes the new standard for the Cybermen. Honestly, I hope that they don't revert back to Rusty Davis's Cybermen, especially when he comes back to become showrunner. I hope he doesn't decide to bring his era stuff back. Make sure he keeps it fresh. But yeah, it's good. It's quite a good one. I didn't like the fact that he tried to change the Cybermen into non-human. Like, the whole point of the Cybermen was supposed to be they're humans that augmented themselves to survive, and the fact that he made changing them into a full robot just meant they weren't really a Cyberman anymore, which was weird. Then next we have let me do that because no, I just despise that story. Ties to Children's awful, but then we got Revolution of the Daleks. Yeah, it's alright. I understand what it was trying to do, and coming off of the Timeless Children, which is just shocking, because of the twist, which I'm not happy about. And maybe I might do a full video on the Timeless Children arc and why it was so bad in future, to elaborate on it more, so give it a whole video. So, skipping that, Revolution of the Daleks, it was a fine story. As I said, I wish the Doctor maybe had more time, not with the companions, just to make it more interesting. It felt quite like they built this up in Spyfall Part 2, where the Doctor was sent to this prison and she was stuck in the prison, and then they fairly quickly, she left the prison at the start with a couple of nods to past villains like the Silence and the Pating and the Weeping Angel, but then they very quickly got rid of her. Captain Jack got her out, and then they managed to, get the TARDIS and go back to Earth. And as Yaz pointed out, she'd been a couple of months, almost a year for Yaz and the companions. So it would have been interesting to see maybe more of that time when they were by themselves, seeing what they were doing, type thing. Possibly just because when the actual plot of the story seems quite dull in between, they could have cut bits out, which I definitely think they should have maybe figured out cut some bits out, just because it was a bit slow. But around, it was a decent episode. But yeah, that's been my review of it. If you have enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. But yeah, see you.